the Pentagon. The president is asking for a 40% increase in the Pentagon's budget over last year with no guardrails in the middle of an illegal war, and coming to us and asking for an additional $67 billion to fund a war that is illegal and that's deeply unpopular with the American public. What Congress needs to do is be the Article I branch and do everything we can to bring an end to this war.
I mean, the reporting is very clear that we're running out of interceptor missiles, and that's part of the problem here with these casualties that we're seeing and the injuries that are being now finally disclosed to the American people, and the war just keeps dragging on. Is a standalone defense spending bill something that you would support?
Well, when the Pentagon says they're running out of money, they neglect to tell you something, that the reconciliation bill that passed last year that gave $153 billion extra dollars to the Pentagon, $89 billion of that has not yet been obligated. And now they're coming and saying, we got to get another $67 billion because of this war in Iran and to replenish our munitions, which never should have been drawn down in the first place if they hadn't foolishly declared war. What about the $89 billion you have sitting over there that we gave you last year that you haven't even spent? So I think this math doesn't add up, and particularly when they're not willing to accept any guardrails on how the money is being used. So, no, I don't think in the middle of an illegal war that's deeply unpopular with Americans that President Trump never should have started, I don't think that's the right time to just inflate the Pentagon budget dramatically.
I mean, and you have such a better vantage point, obviously, than I do to all of this, but it's hard to see from where I sit how both sides make their way back to the negotiating table as things stand. Even Fox News, some hosts are calling this now another forever war. Is that what we're looking at?
Well, look, 5 months into something, I know the president thought it was going to be done in a couple of days because his advisors told him Iran will close the straits. And he said, no, don't worry about it. The war's going to be over already, which anybody with any sense would have known was wrong. There is a path to getting back to the table. It is a ceasefire. It is reopening the straits. It's allowing Iran access to ports. It is some investment by partners in the region to help rebuild what has been destroyed in Iraq. And that could build some tighter relationships in the region that could be positive. And then it is a discussion along the lines of what the president was discussing with Iran about here's what we need to do to put limits on the nuclear program. And Iran is not going to just accept those voluntarily. They'll want to trade. And you know what it'll end up looking like if you get a deal? It'll end up looking a lot like the deal that the United States negotiated with Iran in 2015 that Donald Trump foolishly tore up. And we told Trump,
yeah, exactly.
If you make diplomacy impossible, you are making war inevitable. We told him that. His own Secretary of State and Defense told him not to tear up the diplomatic deal. The only reason we're at war today and our troops are dying is that Donald Trump tore up a diplomatic deal that was working.
Well, help me understand, what is up with this deal with Saudi Arabia? Are you concerned about the potential for nuclear proliferation in the region with this Saudi Arabia deal that we're hearing about now?
Yes. Civilian nuclear power nations should be able to use it as they see fit. But the sort of gold standard for the U.S. in transferring technology has been to ask for two things. One, don't do your own enrichment of uranium or reprocessing of plutonium. We can provide that to you. But if you do your own enrichment and reprocessing, it can be used to proliferate nuclear weapons or inspire others to do the same. That's goal one. Goal two is, if you're going to have a nuclear program, allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to do inspections that meet something called the Additional Protocol, which is designed to ensure that nobody cheats. This deal allows the possibility of the Saudis to enrich and reprocess, and the Saudis have also not agreed to allow the nuclear inspections that are necessary to make sure nobody cheats. When somebody says, I won't agree to the inspections